What? There's actually Olympics this year? On right now? Seriously? In case anyone's wondering, I'm in new digs now, and that's why I don't have a background behind me of the old bookcase with DVDs in my skull. But hopefully we'll have that unpacked soon and we'll get back to normal. I can remember a time when the Olympics were actually something that everyone wanted to watch. That was a long time ago. It used to be a lot of fun to watch the various countries compete against each other. No bullshit. Just sportsmanship. Lots of fun that way. But then in the 80s, the Olympics started to become politicized. There were countries that started to boycott the Olympics over things that had nothing to do with the Olympics. When you politicize sports, they become no fun to watch, and I just start turning off. With this year's Olympics, I couldn't be more disinterested, honestly. The political bullshit started early this year with the fact that the Olympic Committee refused to acknowledge the 40th anniversary of the Munich massacre. For those that don't know about it, or are too young to remember, it was where 11 Israeli athletes were basically assassinated by Palestinian terrorists in their living quarters. The Olympic Committee showed true gutlessness in the fact that they won't acknowledge the 40th anniversary because they're afraid they might offend the Palestinians. Fuck them. I'm actually surprised the Olympic Committee didn't have the Israeli flag burning during the opening fucking ceremonies. Hell, they may as well just rename the Olympic Games the Muslim Games in honor of their new heroes. And to further please Muslim terror-supporting states, the Olympic Committee caved into their complaints. You see, the Muslim athletes were upset that they had to practice next to the Israeli team. These are the same Muslim athletes that won't even compete against the Israelis. Understandable though, since every time the Arabs went up against the Israelis in battle, they got their asses kicked. I guess it would shatter their fragile egos if they lost to the Israelis at the Olympics as well. And the Olympic Committee showed further gutlessness when they allowed a 16-year-old athlete from Saudi Arabia to wear her headscarf in judo. That should be pretty funny. Being a combative martial art, you wouldn't want to lose your eyesight or anything in front of your opponent when your headscarf goes in front of your eyes. But then again, Islam has lived in darkness since the 7th century, so it's nothing new to them. And politics aside, I really couldn't watch the Olympics now anyway because they feminized them so much. They're concentrating on sports that really aren't even sports, at least not to men. I mean, if your sport involves no physical contact and you don't even face off against your opponent in any way, it's not a sport. If a contest cannot be quantified in terms of either goals or runs scored, then it's really not a sport. And if it's a solo sport that can't be measured with a tape measure, scales, or a stopwatch, it's also not a sport. And what really qualifies as not being a sport is any contest that requires a panel of expert judges to determine who the winner is. If that were the case, those creepy beauty contests with little kids, like toddlers and tiaras, that would qualify as an Olympic sport. And if the Olympics was supposed to be all about the sports, this year, I wouldn't know it. Only about 30% of it is actually covering the competitions. The rest is all just bullshit and fluff. Aside from commercials, all they seem to do is talk to the athletes, or talk to people about other athletes or ex-athletes and all this crap. Or then they throw on these slick human interest stories that really I could give a shit about. And then when they blather on and on and on, they have either like really emotional or dramatic music in the background. Like that's going to make it any better. They seem to be catering to female viewers because it's all talk and all emotion. I mean, it's the Olympics. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. Let's watch the sports. This year's Summer Games isn't about the sports. It's almost as if Oprah Winfrey's own network took over and they just want to talk to the athletes about how they feel about the sports rather than show us the sports. I have tried to watch the Olympics a bit, but it's just not that great. The sports they've chosen just aren't interesting. Most of them aren't even sports. Even women's volleyball is not that interesting. They got them covered from neck to ankle, for Christ's sake. What's the fun in watching that? No jiggling? Come on. And the one sport I'd like to watch, the shooting sports, they won't even show. I guess it's because they're all gutless. They want to show you when shooting bullets downrange. They show us ribbon fucking twirlers. What really bothers me is the fact that the air pistol and the pentathlon competitions, they're not using bullets or pellets, they're using laser pointers down the barrels. You know, shooting sports are truly wussified by the Olympics Committee when they won't allow projectiles to fly downrange. And the one athlete, Kim Rhodes, won a medal, but we wouldn't know it because they didn't show her compete. The sports they are showing just don't interest me. I'm not a swimmer and I'm not a gymnast, so I don't want to watch that crap. Fencing, archery and shooting, these are kind of interesting, but they're not showing those sports. I know these sports aren't exactly viewer friendly, but it'd be nice to see at least a little bit of these. And to further damage the credibility of the Olympics Committee, are they going to do some drug testing sometime soon? Case in point, the female Chinese swimmer who swam the last 50 meters of a 400-meter race faster than the male 50-meter record. Wow, steroids much? They should either test her piss or check her for a penis. What's really making me lose interest in the Olympics is the lousy coverage. And what coverage you're getting just jumps from event to event. You get highlights of events, but you don't get the full flow of the sports as they happen. This may be okay for people who have the attention span of a goldfish, but for true fans of the sports, it's really annoying. It's kind of like being in a restaurant, you know, you're partway into a meal, they pull your plate away, shove another one in front of you, get a bite of that, they pull that one away. You don't really get a full sense of enjoyment of your meal. Same with the Olympics. It'd be nice if there's more channels showing the Olympics. That way you can watch your favorite sports in real time, and not just to see little snippets here and there of the sports that you really want to watch. But judging by the fact that I haven't enjoyed what I've been watching so far, tomorrow I don't think I'm going to tune in, or any other day for that matter. I no longer enjoy watching the Olympics. It's not about sports anymore. It's about advertising, it's about politics, it's about bullshit. I'm sure in future Olympics they'll make it so wussified that they won't even have gold medals anymore. You'll just get participation medals for showing up. And they'll have everybody up on the stage taking the bite.